Richard Cross in for Paul this morning. Lance in the studio, and now Ricky Matthews joins us. He is a host here at SuperTalk Mississippi of the Ricky Matthews Show and SuperTalk Outdoors. It's been a while since I've seen you. Great to see you this morning, Ricky. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good to see you too, Richard. Have you considered making this sort of a full-time gig? You're really good at it.
That is kind of you to say that. There's this guy by the name of Paul Gallo that sits in this chair, and I don't think he's ready to move anytime soon. So it's always an honor to sit in for Paul and have a lot of fun with this. Hurricane Francine. I don't want to belittle it and say all bark and no bite. I don't think that is a fair characterization, but it certainly could have been a whole lot worse.
It could have been. You know, I'm a little leery about actually using the word dodging a bullet because, as we know, it's still kind of spinning up Mississippi, and we don't know for sure who all will be impacted. I think a lot about my farmer friends. I spoke to them this morning. And a lot of farmers have already sprayed their cotton, and we're waiting. You know, cotton wasn't quite ready to get out. They've been working on getting their soybeans out, and so a lot of cotton's getting drenched right now. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. But here on the coast, it looks like about 4.5 foot of storm surge over in Hancock County. At my house, best I can tell, about 3 to 4 feet. Pier is still underwater. You know, 20-mile-an-hour winds here, about gusts to 33. The biggest gust I've seen is somewhere in the little bit over 50-mile-per-hour range. But in the scheme of things, based on our experience, as you well know, I think coastal Mississippi fared pretty well. You know, a few thousand people still without power. But I think the trajectory of this storm, the way it approached, coming, you know, down from, you know, like almost to Texas, Mexico border, and coming from that trajectory, didn't give the storm surge an opportunity to really build up like you would normally do if it were just doing a direct approach to the Mississippi Gulf Coast. So I think that minimized the storm surge. It was a strange storm in that it was calm. It was calm well into the dark. You know, we started getting some gusts, and then, of course, once the storm passed and it started to really pull that energy in is when we started seeing the storm surge, et cetera. But I really do think we dodged a bullet, if you can use that term. And we'll pray for those in Mississippi across the state as this thing continues to kind of churn its way up the state, and hope that no one has significant impact, including our farmers.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that about the farmers, something that we talked about earlier in the show this morning. Harvesting beans, you got a lot of people that are harvesting corn. That defoliate is out, and you're starting to get all the cotton buds exposed. I think that's kind of worst nightmare for farmers this time of year, especially after a long dry spell, to get a big rain and wind event. And so hopefully they are all good. Certainly saying a prayer for them. I echo your sentiment on that. Ricky, I feel like the state of Mississippi is more connected than it's ever been. I feel like there are times in our past where it was almost like the Mississippi Gulf Coast was its own entity, and then there was all the rest of us. But there's less and less of that for whatever reason, or at least that's my feeling. But there are lots of people, whether you want to say north of Highway 82 or north of I-20, that don't spend a ton of time on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. You talked about 3 to 4.5 feet of storm surge. Remind us what the coast is kind of capable of handling without getting into a massive flooding situation, whether we're talking about right on the coast or in some of those back bay areas.
Yeah, it really kind of depends on where you are. Like over in areas of Hancock County, you know, roads are underwater. So when you have a situation where roads are underwater, then people's ability to get around, emergency services ability to get around. But I say, you know, once you get to about the six feet range, you start having trouble. I mean, it starts getting into some areas it shouldn't be. Highway 90 goes underwater. You know, lots of things like that. Incidentally, I posted this on my personal Facebook page, but a guy by the name of Randall Broussard posted a video this morning of going down Highway 90. The beach, they've done a great job of putting the dunes up. So what that has done, when you have a really steady south flow of wind, it limits the amount of sand that gets on Highway 90. That's one of the designs. They actually designed it that way. And this video he posted, it looks like Highway 90, for the most part, fared pretty well and did not go underwater. So that's kind of it. Hey, just a quick comment. I think one of the reasons why there's more connectability in Mississippi, we are I don't know, we're more together these days maybe than we are apart. I give Steve Davenport a lot of credit for that, buddy. SuperTalk, what a genius strategy to have this group of radio stations that are connected, and to have our shows want to talk about what's happening on the coast and what's happening in Tupelo and what's happening in the Golden Triangle and the Mississippi Delta. And people are more aware of each other's plights and successes and challenges than they've ever been before. You guys on Sports Talk, even though you may just talk about, I say you talk about Ole Miss and State and Southern Miss, but you also talk about, the condition in America from time to time. I mean, you're not just focused on sports all the time. I think SuperTalk gets a lot of credit for helping to do that. That's what I think.
I concur. I think there's absolutely something to that. Going back to Hurricane Francine, and maybe this is hurricanes in general, when we talk about the effect, I know one of the concerns earlier in the week was storm surge and kind of pushing water up the Pascagoula River, and then what that does to some of those surrounding areas. Was that a legitimate concern, and have you heard any from the areas around that, any effect?
Yeah, I think, not just Pascagoula, but I think all the tributaries that drain into the Gulf of Mexico, Mississippi Sound from coastal Mississippi. It's always a concern when you have storm surge just being driven up, and you have some of the rain estimates that what they thought we were going to get. I think I had about 4.5 inches of rain here since yesterday afternoon, and total over the last couple of days, somewhere in the vicinity of 8 inches. So when you get that amount of rain and the storm surge is being driven up, the water can't drain off, and so you have significant river flooding along with the storm surge itself. I think all of that was not nearly as bad as they thought it was going to be, and that's always a big issue when a hurricane hits coastal Mississippi, that we can't get drained the way we need to. So we haven't had a full damage assessment, but so far the reports I'm hearing are very positive.
Most of our, or many of our longtime Mississippi coast, Gulf Coast residents, conditioned to dealing with hurricanes. I guess if you're a certain age, Camille will always be the standard by which other hurricanes are measured. For those who are a little bit younger, Katrina is that standard by which everything is measured. What's the general feeling for coast residents when they hear hurricanes coming, don't know how severe, or hurricanes coming, this could be a bad one? Is it, I know it's not indifference, but it's like, well, we'll get ready to get through another one.
It's interesting. There's a great concern, Richard, actually. It's, I've experienced Hurricane Camille and, of course, Katrina and points in between and since.
Yeah.
I think for people who've experienced these storms, especially Katrina, man, I mean, there's a lot of PTSD in people. Speaking of myself personally, my family and I were nearly killed by Katrina. We were nearly washed away. And so many, after the day I came back from the Sun Herald, 67 employees lost everything they owned, and some lost family members. Lots of us lost friends. When you experience something like that and your entire community is devastated, I don't think you ever really recover from it. So when another storm is coming and you start seeing the models and all the information that's available to us today, I think people are super locked in to do everything in their power to stay safe and keep their property safe. The other thing is, you pointed out, we're now a generation away from Hurricane Katrina. So, if you were young when Katrina hit, you probably were impacted and will never forget it. A lot of new people coming to the community who don't understand or appreciate this. I think we're really focused on making sure we pass, the learnings and the experience to others so that they can be safe, because too many people died in Katrina because they made a decision to stay based on their Camille experience. A.J. Holloway said after the storm that Camille killed more people in 2005 than she killed in 1969. So think about that for a second.
You got a few minutes to hang with us, or you need to run?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
We'll talk a little bit more with Ricky Matthews. He is host of the Ricky Matthews Show on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast, and also the host of SuperTalk Outdoors. We'll get into a little bit of that when we come back. Wildlife impact by some of these storms, and we got some hunting seasons that are on the way. We're back with you right after this. It's the Gallo Show on SuperTalk Mississippi. Ricky Matthews is my guest. He's the host of the Ricky Matthews Show and SuperTalk Outdoors. I'm going to pepper you with a potpourri of topics over these next couple of minutes. Appreciate you spending some time with us this morning, Ricky. Outdoors. You're the host of Mississippi Outdoors Radio and on SuperTalk Mississippi, and we're close, right? Dove season has arrived. Labor Day weekend, so many people enjoy that so much. Bow season will begin in a lot of parts of the state here before long. Deer season all over the state of Mississippi just a couple of months away, and ducks after that. It's a time of year that people look so very forward to. I don't know what it's like where you are. I know that in North Mississippi, there are deer everywhere. Where are we in terms of population concerns with deer? I know there's been a lot of effort in recent years to try to take some steps to improve that in terms of reducing the number of deer that are out there. Where are we?
Well, first of all, we live in the capital of the outdoors, which is why all the things you just talked about are so dynamic and important this time of year. It's just incredible. Mm-hmm. But as it relates to the deer population, William McKinley, who is head of the deer program for the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, joins me regularly on my show. And by the way, he's one of the best. He is. We should covet having William McKinley on our team here in Mississippi to help us manage our incredible deer situation, especially with chronic wasting disease out there. You know, it's important to have someone like William in a leadership role like that. But William is pressing us hard to help get the population down. I mean, when the population of deer is what it is now, you see more issues with cars hitting them on the highways. That's obviously an issue. As it relates to CWD, you're going to have more spread when you have the population is up there. It's overall better for the herd when we all do our part to get the meat we need and fill our freezers. And I think we've done a really good job of focusing on antler growth and what it takes to see the big bucks, et cetera. But what that's done is people have been a little stingy pulling the trigger. And so we've got a little work to do there. But, that's a good problem to have. We just have some of the best deer hunting in the world here in Mississippi.
What does a storm like Francine do to coast fishing?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, man. I had Kyle Johnson on yesterday. He's a captain here in coastal Mississippi, and he was talking about what he and other charter boat captains have to do to prepare for the storm. But he's actually planning to go out tomorrow. He's got some people that want to go out tomorrow. And the situation as far as the seas are concerned, the current forecast is it's going to be fine. Usually after a storm, Richard, it's awesome. It's really good. I remember my two sons and I went out to Hurricane Ivan and had one of the best days we've had. We actually picked up a sign. Actually, it was a channel marker that got ripped off somewhere around Perdido Pass. And we brought it home, and it stayed in my backyard until Hurricane Katrina washed it away. I always remembered that fishing trip because of that sign. But Kyle's planning to go out. The fishing in advance of the storm was really, really good. All the charter boat captains I talked to have said that this has been a great season because you don't want a total drought and you don't want too much rain. There's somewhere in the middle where the bait really is at its best, and that's where we are right now. So, we got a lot of rain. There's going to be some of the fresh water is going to go into the backwaters, but offshore it's going to be terrific. I think after this.
Good to know. It's good to know. If you want one of those fishing trips, there are plenty of guides that would love to take you. That is certainly a booming industry on the coast. Visiting with Ricky Matthews, host of the Ricky Matthews Show and SuperTalk Outdoors. Glad to be with you this morning. Switching gears altogether, we're I guess a day and a half, almost 2 days removed now from the first, maybe the only presidential debate of this cycle. I guess I would opine here, and this is purely my opinion. You don't have to take it. I thought Tuesday night was a disaster for Donald Trump. I'm not sure that it was that much better for Kamala Harris. I thought the fact that he continually took the bait that she threw out solely for the purpose of getting him off message was very, very disappointing. But with all of that said, we witnessed a disastrous debate performance from Joe Biden a couple of months back, and there was basically no change in the polls. I suppose my question in all of that is, have presidential debates lost their ability to sway voters one way or the other?
You know, I don't think so. I really don't. As you know, I'm a former newspaper publisher, spent a career in media, and so I've watched this dynamic for a long time. We live in a polarizing world. We all know that. I mean, that's for sure. But I think the debates have more importance now than they've had before because there's so little we know about, for example, Kamala Harris, and we want to know more. And so I think she came across rehearsed, calm, a little bit too rehearsed. He came across a little too unhinged, and she was able to bait him along. And I think a lot of people were disappointed in that. And he just missed so many opportunities to show a contrast. However, if you look at the polls that are coming out in the wake of this debate, independents were not impressed with what they heard from Kamala Harris. That's what's interesting. As bad as he did, independents tended to lean more toward the policy positions that he discussed. So, in a lot of ways, Machiavelli was right. We have very short memories, man. That's the reality of where we are right now. And people will only remember some of these sound bites. And how would these sound bites sort of settle in and germinate? And ruminate. That's what's going to be very interesting to see.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously there was the fact checking of Donald Trump, and that didn't happen at all for Kamala Harris from the ABC News team, and I get all of that. Here's the thing that I don't understand. I feel like this is an infinitely winnable election for Donald Trump, but I don't understand the messaging and the fact that they can't stay on message, because it's really, really simple in my view. Are you better off today, or were you better off 4 years ago? Are you safer today, or were you safer 4 years ago? Are you tired of us being laughed at globally, or did you like where we were in terms of a position of strength internationally 3.5, 4 years ago? And I don't think you got to do anything else. Just pound that over and over and over. Everything you do costs more. You're less safe. Period.
Yeah.
Am I crazy for thinking that, Ricky?
I mean, I'm with you 100% on that too. But Donald Trump has his shtick.
He does.
And love him or hate him, he's going to do it his way. And you look at the number of really smart people, Vivek among them, who continue to focus on the message that you just talked about. And they would do it a very different way. And Donald Trump's not getting off of his script. What he thinks got him elected the first time, again, he thinks he got elected the second time. Do that with what you may. But the reality is he's going to do it his way. And, I don't know who's helping him, or even if he listens to who's helping him. But it would seem to me to be really easy. Nothing's easy in this world. Don't get me wrong, because he's under attack all the time. But the message seems to be very clear, and we keep getting off message, unfortunately.
Yeah. Thomas in Greenwood says, imagine how different that debate would have been if that had been Vivek facing Kamala. There's no question. because of the way he presents his message. But these are the candidates. This is what we're dealing with. 4 years from now is maybe going to look a whole lot different.
Or even J.D. Vance. He's smart, man. I mean, how would he have handled that? Yeah.
Interesting times. We are getting close, 54 days away from Election Day, I think, at this point. Ricky, always good to catch up. Appreciate your time on a variety of topics, and thankful that the coast is in good shape after Hurricane Francine, that it was not nearly as bad as it could have been.
100%. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Ricky Matthews, host of the Ricky Matthews Show and SuperTalk Outdoors. Quick time out. We've got more coming up with you when we return. We'll talk with Charles Watson, who's Senior Vice President of Network Operations at C Spire. Thankfully, we're not talking about what C Spire is having to do to scramble to get people back online and on their phones, but we will talk about what the preparation for these events is like. That's coming up next on The Gallows Show on SuperTalk Mississippi.